Hi Mark, I'm Jenny Yezhen, and my student number is S064139. I'm a freshman at NCUE, and my major is English. The title of the speech is Life in the Deep Oceans, and the speaker is David Gallo. Applause. David Gallo. That is Bill Lynch. I'm Dave Gallo, and we're going to tell you some stories from the sea here in video. We've got some of the most incredible video of Titanic that's ever been seen, and we're not going to show you any of it. Laughter. The truth of the matter is that Titanic, even though it's breaking all sorts of box office records, is not the most exciting story from the sea. And the problem, I think, is that we take the ocean for granted. When you think about it, the oceans are 75% of the planet. Most of the planet is ocean water. The average depth is about 2 miles. Part of the problem, I think, is we stand at the beach or we see images like this of the ocean, and you look out at this great big blue expanse, and it's shimmering and it's moving, and there's waves and there's surf and there's tide, but you have no idea for what lies in there. And in the oceans, there are the longest mountain ranges on the planet. Most of the animals are in the oceans. Most of the earthquakes and volcanoes are in the sea, at the bottom of the sea. The biodiversity and the biodensity in the ocean is higher in place than it is in the rainforest. It's mostly unexplored, and yet there are beautiful signs like this that captivate us and make us become familiar with it. But when you're standing at the beach, I want you to think that you're standing at the edge of a very unfamiliar world. We have to have a very special technology to get into that unfamiliar world. We use the submarine Alvin, and we use cameras, and the cameras are something that Bill Lynch has developed with the help of Sony. Marshall Prompt say the true voyage of discovery is not so much in seeking new landscapes as in having new eyes. People that have partnered with us have given us new eyes not only on what exists, the new landscapes at the bottom of the sea, but also how we think about life on the planet itself. Here's a jelly. It's one of my favorites because it's got all sorts of working parts. It's turned out to be the longest creature in the oceans. It gets up to about 150 feet long, but see all those different working things? I love that kind of stuff. It's got less fishing lures on the bottom. They're going up and down. It's got tentacles dangling, swirling around like that. It's a colonial animal. These are all individual animals banking together to make this one creature. And it's got less structure up in front that is all used in the moment, and a little light. If you take all the big fish and schooling fish and all that, put them on one side of the scale, put all of the jelly type of animals on the other side, those guys win hands down. Most of the biomass in the ocean is made out of creatures like this. Here's X-wing death jelly. Laughter. The bioluminescent they use the lights for attracting mates and attracting prey and communicating. We couldn't begin to show you our archival stuff from jellies. They come in all different sizes and shapes. Bill Lynch. We tend to forget about the fact that The ocean is miles deep on average, and that we're really familiar with the animals that are in the first 200 and 300 feet, but we're not familiar with what exists from there all the way down to the bottom. And these are the types of animals that live in that three-dimensional space, that microgravity environment that we really haven't explored. You hear about giant squid and things like that, but some of these animals get up to be approximately 140-116 feet long. They are very little understood. DG, that is one of the things. Another one of our favorite, because it's a little octopod. You can actually see through his head, and here he is, flapping with his ears and very gracefully going up. We see those at all depth, and even at great depths, they go from a couple of inches to a couple of feet. They come right up to the submarine. They'll put their eye right up to the window and peek inside of a sub. This is really a world within a world. We're going to show you too. In this case, we're passing down through mid-ocean and we see creatures like this. It's kind of like an undersea rooster. This guy that looks incredibly formal in a way. And then one of my favorite, what a face. It is basically scientific data that you're looking at. It's footage with collected for scientific purpose. And that's one of the things that Bill's been doing, is providing scientists with the first view of animals like this in the world where they belong. They don't catch them in the net. They're actually looking at them down in that world. We're going to take a joystick, sit in front of our computer on the earth, and press the joystick forward, and they fly around the planet. We're going to look at the mid-ocean ridge, a 40,000 miles long mountain range. The average depth at the top of it is about a mile and a half, and we're over the Atlantic. That's the ridge right here. But we're going to go across the Caribbean, Central America, and end up again in the Pacific. 9 degrees north. We made maps of this mountain range with sound with sonar, and this is one of those mountain ranges. We're coming around a cliff here on the right. The height of this mountain on either side of this valley is greater than the Alps in most cases. And there's tens of thousands of those mountains out there that haven't been mapped yet. It is a volcanic ridge. We're getting down further and further in scale, and eventually we can come up with something like this. It is an icon of our robot. Jason is called, and you can sit in a room like this with a joystick and a headset and drive a robot like that around the bottom of the ocean in real time. One of the things we're trying to do at Woods Hole with our partner is to bring this virtual world, this exploration, back to the laboratory, because we see it in bits and pieces right now. We see it either as sound, or we see it as video, or we see it as photograph, or we see it as chemical sensors, but we never have yet put it all together into one interesting picture. Here's where Bill's camera really to shine. That is what's called a hydrosmore vent And what you're seeing here is a cloud of densely packed hydrogen sulfide-rich water coming out of a volcanic axis on the seafloor. Gets up to 600-700 degrees Fahrenheit. Somewhere in that range. So that's all water under the sea, 1.5 miles, 2 miles, 3 miles down. And we knew it was a volcano back in the 60s, 70s, and then we had some hint that these things existed all along the axis of it, because if you got a volcanism, water is going to get down from the sea into cracks in the seafloor, come in contact with magma, and come shooting out hot. Well, we weren't really warned that it would be so rich with hydrogen sulfides. We didn't have any idea about lessons, which we call chimneys. It is one of these hydrothermal vents, 600 degrees Fahrenheit water coming out of Earth. On either side of us are mountain ranges that are higher than the Alps, so the setting here is very dramatic. The white material is a type of bacteria that thrives at 118 degrees centigrade. I think that one of the greatest stories right now that we're seeing from bottom of sea is that the first thing we see coming out of the seafloor after a volcanic eruption is bacteria. And we've started to wonder for a long time, how did it get down there? What we find out now is that it's probably coming from inside the earth. Not only it is coming out of the earth, so biogenesis made from volcanic activity. Bacteria supports its colonies of life. The pressure here is 4,000 pounds per square inch, 1.5 miles from surface to 2 miles to 3 miles. No sun has ever gotten down here. All the energy to support this life form is coming from inside the earth. So chemosis, and you can see how dense the population is. These are called tube worms. These worms have no digestive system. They have no mouths, but they have two types of jaw structures, one for extracting oxygen out of deep sea water, another one which houses chemosynthetic bacteria, syntaxes hydrothermal fluid. The hot water that you saw coming out of bottom and converts that into simple sugar that the tube worm can digest. You can see here's a crab that lives down here. It's managed to grab a tip of these worms. Now, they normally reject as soon as a crab touches them. Oh, good going. So as soon as a crab touches them, they reject down into their shells, just like your fingernails. There's a whole story being played out here that we're just now beginning to have some idea of because of this new camera technology. These worms live in a real temperature extreme. Their foot is at about 200 degrees centigrade and their head is out at 3 degrees centigrade. And so it's like having your head in boiling water and your foot in freezing water. That's how they like to live. Laughter. That is a female of this kind of worm. And here's a male. You watch. It doesn't take long before two guys here. There's one and one that will show up over here. Start a fight. Everything you see is played out in the pitch black of a deep sea. There are never any lights there, except the lights that we bring. Here they go. On one of the last dive series, we counted 200 species in this area. 198 were new species. BL. One of the big problems is that for biologists working at this size, it's rather difficult to collect these animals, and they disintegrate on the way up, so imagery is critical for science. The two octopuses at about 2 miles depth. This pressure thing is really amazed me. That this animal can exist there at a depth with pressure enough to crush the Titanic like an empty Pepsi can. What we saw up till now was from the Pacific, that is from the Atlantic, even greater depths. You can see this shrimp is harassing this poor little guy here, and he'll bat it away with his claw. Walk, laughed her. And the same thing going on over here. What we're getting at is that on the back of this crab, the foodstuff here is this very strange bacteria that lives on the backs of all these animals. And what these shrimps are trying to do is actually harvest the bacteria from the back of these animals, and the crabs don't like it at all. These long filaments that you see on the back of a crab are actually created by the product of the bacteria. So the bacteria grows here on crab. On the back, you see this again. The red dot is the laser light of a submarine Alvin to give us an idea about how far away we are from the vents. Those are oceans. You see the hot water over here, and here, coming up. They're clinging to a rock face and actually scraping bacteria off that rock face. Here's a tiny little fence that's coming out of the side of that pillar. Those pillars get up to several stories. So here, we've got this valley with this incredible alien landscape of pillars and hot springs and volcanic eruption and earthquakes, inhabited by this very strange animal that live only on chemical energy coming out of the ground. They don't need the sun at all. BL. You see this white V-shaped mark on the back of the shrimp? It's actually a licensing organ. It's how they find hydrothermal vents. The vents are emitting the black body radiation, and their signature, and so they're able to find these vents at considerable distance. Oh, this stuff is happening along that 40,000 miles long mountain range that we're calling the Ribbon of Light, because just even today, as we speak, there's life being generated there from volcanic activity. That is the first time we've ever tried this any place. We're going to try to show you high definition from the Pacific. We are moving up one of these pillars. That's one of several stories tall, and that you'll see that is a habitat for a lot of different animals. Here's a funny kind of hot plant here, with vent water coming out of it. So all of these are individual homes for worms. Now here's a closer view of that community. Here's crabs here, worms here. There are smaller animals squirting around. Here's pack-dog structures. I think that is the neatest looking thing. I just can't get over this that you've got less little chimneys sitting here smoking away. This stuff is toxic as hell, by the way. You could never get a permit to dump less in the ocean, and it's coming out all from it. Laughter. It's unbelievable. It's basically sulfuric acid, and it's been just dumped out at incredible rates, and animals are thriving and will probably come from here. That's probably here where we evolved from. This bacteria that we've been talking about turns out to be the most simplest form of life found. There are a number of groups that are proposing that life involved at less vent size. Although the vent size are short lives, an individual size may last only 10 years or so, as an ecosystem that's been stable for millions, well billions of years. It works too well. You see there's some fish inside here as well. There's a fish sitting here. Here's a crab with his claw right at the end of that tube worm, waiting for that worm to stick his head out. Laughter. The biologists right now cannot explain why these animals are so active. The worms are growing inches per week. I already said that this side, from the human perspective, is toxic as hell. Not only that, but on top, the lifeblood, the plumbing cistern turns off every year so. Their plumbing cistern turns off, so the sides have to move, and then there's earthquakes and volcanic eruption on the order of one every 5 years. That completely wipes the area out. Despite that, this animal grows back in around about a year's time. We're talking about biodensities and biodiversity, again, higher than the rainforest that just spring back to life. Is it sensitive? Yes. It is fragile? No, it is not really very fragile. I will end up with saying one thing. There's a story in the sea, in waters of the sea, in sediments and rocks of the seafloor. It's an incredible story. What we see when we look back in time, in those sediments and rocks, is a record of Earth's history. Everything on this planet, everything works by cycles and rhythms. The continents move apart. They come back together. Oceans come and go. Mountains come and go. Glaciers come and go. El Nino comes and goes. It's not a disaster. It's rhythmic. What we're learning now is almost like a symphony. It's just like music. It's just like music. And what we're learning now is that you can listen to a 5 billion-year-long symphony, get to today and say stop. We want tomorrow's not to be the same as it was today. It's absurd. It's just absurd. So what we've got to learn now is to find out where this planet going at all. There's different scales and work with it. Learn to manage it. The concept of preservation is volatile. Conservation's tougher, but we can probably get there. Thank you very much. Thank you. Applause.